All right. Welcome to a week 9 preview edition of the Lewis and Laraib podcast featuring me, Lewis, and my beautiful co-host Laraib on the other side of me. And we have a great slate of games for you this week. We hope this frantic election week, a lot is on a lot of people's minds, including our own. But this entire segment, however long it's going to be, will be all football, all for you, all segment. Laraib?
Yeah, another week of NFL football, and let's just jump right in. You got anything else to say?
No, I'm excited to get right into these. So we will start. We're filming this during the Packers 49ers game. Both of us picked the Packers. Not much to talk about there. So we'll move on to our first game with the 12 o'clock slate. The 3-4 Broncos with a very surprising win over the Chargers last week, traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Falcons favored by 4 points in this matchup. Key thing to note, what really impressed me last week from the Broncos, and it's funny because they played the Chargers last week, who were probably the Falcon equivalent of a team in the AFC, and now they're facing the Falcons this week. So Broncos, they really impressed me with how they changed their protection in the second half of that game, and especially in the fourth quarter. They protected Drew Lock, and Drew Lock suddenly was like, all right, now I can throw the ball down the field. This is great. He hit Jerry Jeudy on a beautiful deep post late in that fourth quarter, and he did just enough to get them the win. Credit to Vic Fangio for sticking with the horses in that game plan. There's some rumblings. Von Miller might return this season to play. Now, it's not going to elevate them to a playoff team, but that's just some of the news I've heard from Denver this week. But in regards to this specific game, this is a tough one to predict because the nature of these teams is Denver's going to be very conservative very early, trying to get Melvin Gordon going. So they might fall down to a deficit, but it's the Falcons, so they might come back and win. But we just saw Falcons coming off a 10 days week of rest following a Thursday night win over the Panthers, hopefully trying to get some of that momentum. Maybe they exercise some of their demons by holding that fourth quarter lead, as tumultuous as it seemed at times against the Panthers on Thursday Night Football. But they held the lead, and there's some promising things there. The rushing attack, Todd Gurley played very well, has had a really good season so far. Notable injuries in this game. There's not really any big that stand out to me besides the obvious ones that we've known for a while. Calvin Ridley will play in this game, despite coming out of the game against the Panthers last Thursday night. So he's going to play in this game. So big thing for me, Broncos, you need to get that air raid going early in the game. You have to stay aggressive. And if you want a chance to just continue, you don't want to keep putting yourself in pitfalls trying to claw your way back out. Now, if there's any team to do that against, it's the Falcons. But let's keep that momentum from last week's fourth quarter going into this game against a bad passing defense.
Yeah, and you're talking about a bad passing defense. Just talk about a bad defense overall. The Falcons are 29th ranked just pass defense, 29th ranked in DVOA. So it's going to be a field day for Drew Lock out there, especially with some of the young receivers that he has, and Tim Patrick, along with Jerry Jeudy, who both emerged, earlier this season and had a great game last week. And look for more of the same once again against the Falcons. Both these teams, they have some, shocking wins. Last week we projected both of them to lose, and then they have some shocking losses. So this is going to be one of those games. It's either pick 'em. So in this one, I have to take the Denver Broncos, and this will probably end up being my upset of the week. But give me the Broncos in this one just because the Falcons always blow their leads. So give me Broncos 24, Falcons 21.
What's surprising for me, Laraib, is that in this game where, earlier in the season, we were talking about the Broncos when they were 0-3 facing the 0-3 Jets. And we were like, this is the team I want to see Trevor Lawrence in. But a funny thing happened when Drew Lock came back from injury. They beat the Patriots. I mean, regardless of how you think of the Patriots, it's still the Patriots, and you beat them on the road. So that's pretty impressive. Plus, another win against a good Chargers team. Like, this team is impressing me. Now they're not gonna make the playoffs, but I think Drew Lock could be in contention. There's gonna be some serious questions on, if they have their franchise guy. He's starting to get a lot better, more comfortable since he's come back from injury. And if he plays well this game, which I think he will, and I agree with you, I have the Broncos winning this game, then that could be huge for this Denver fan base and a lot of questions for John Elway this upcoming offseason. But I have Denver winning this game like you. I'm going to go 27-20. I think they're going to, pull it out big in this one.
Yeah, we both agree on the Broncos winning. But, yeah, like you were saying, Drew Lock, he keeps on performing like this, especially with the playmakers that he has on the offensive side of the ball. He definitely could be looking like the franchise quarterback for the Denver Broncos moving forward.
Yep, definitely. So now let's move on to our next game of the 12 o'clock slate. We have the 6-1 Seahawks traveling Buffalo to face the 6-2 Bills. Both teams coming off a win last week. This is an exciting game, Laura. I'll let you start with your team to start with.
Yeah, so my Seattle Seahawks, much to a lot of people's chagrin last week, the game did not come down to overtime or a game-winning field goal. Seahawks won that game pretty handedly. Thank you very much. And now they're playing against the Bills defense that's been struggling so far. It's been struggling. I would say struggling. And then the offense with Josh Allen really hasn't been clicking as well as I thought it would. But let's go back to Russell Wilson and the offense. Even with with Chris Carson out, Carlos Hyde out, they were still able to get it done on the ground game with DJ Dallas. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. And then through the air, once again, we saw DK Metcalf have another outstanding performance. So this offense looking like it's going to have a field day against this Bills secondary. And then that defense, Jamal Adams will be playing in this game. He's going to be 100% good to go along with Carlos Dunlap. So it's going to be a key matchup for this defense to see how well they can step up against the Bills offense that's been underperforming the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bills want to win this game, it's going to be all on Josh Allen to win in a shootout. One thing good to know, Jamal Adams had his first full week of practice since his injury, so he will be playing in this bout. Great news, like you said. So that's going to provide a little boost and more challenges for Josh Allen on that side of the ball. But he really needs to, dissect this defense and stay in this game. We know Seattle, they had their defining moment last week against a beat-up 49ers team, in which it wasn't a close game, much to their chagrin, I think, much to pleasure for Seahawks fans.
Much to everyone else's chagrin, pleasure for me, at least.
See, if it's a primetime game, we want it to be fun. That's why we put the Seahawks there.
You want it to be fun. I just want it to be a victory.
But regardless, this game has a chance to be fun. I mean, you need Josh Allen to look back. Early season MVP, that definitely has fallen off in this past few performances. This offense has really, is there the book out on them? Has our defense starting to key on to certain things? Maybe is Josh Allen a little banged up? That's a possibility. But this is the game right here. You're against a not that great Seattle defense. Is Carlos Dunlap going to be playing in this game, Laura?
Yeah, he will be playing in this game.
He's going to be activated. Another challenge for Josh Allen. So the recipe for the Bills to win this game is you have to match Russell Wilson. Deep shots. You have to, keep Russell Wilson off the field. So you need to get Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, who just came off a huge game against the Patriots. Need to get those 2 running backs going in this one and really get some momentum to just continue, and the defense feeds off of it. You need to score touchdowns. You don't want to see the kicker in this game whatsoever if you're going to beat Seattle. But I don't think that's going to happen, even though it's in Buffalo. I think Seattle just has way too much firepower, and they don't really have the big cover corner. I think they're going to put White on Metcalf, but just the physicality of Metcalf is really going to bother Tre'Davious White all game long. And they still have Tyler Lockett, who I think is going to abuse the other corners on the team. So give me the Seahawks in this one. I'm going to go high scoring because this is going to be a high scoring game. Give me 37-34 Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, this is all going to come down to Josh Allen, and he certainly has the weapons with, Stephon Diggs, newly acquired during the offseason, along with John Brown. So, I mean, he'll throw a couple touchdowns, but there's no way he'll be able to keep pace with Russell Wilson, especially has been playing the last week. So I will say Seahawks win this game 31, Bills 24.
Is John Brown playing in this game?
Let me do a double check on that.
Okay. In the meantime, that's going to add more firepower. They've been missing him all offseason. Stephon Diggs has played well this season, but they're going to need all their horses in order to just continue to be in a shootout against these Seahawks. Because a field goal here and a 3-and-out here, that's going to be the difference of the game. You need every possession to matter if you're Buffalo, if you want to win this game. But like I said, I just think Seattle's, they know their game plan. They know exactly what they want to do. And it doesn't really matter who's the running back for them because DJ Dallas, Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson, they're going to produce in that Seattle offense. So it's going to be a very, very tough time stopping the Seattle offense, regardless of where you're playing.
Yep. So quick update, John Brown, he has a knee injury, but he did practice today. So I believe he will be playing for the Sunday game.
Interesting. That is very interesting. Now we're moving on to our third game at 12 o'clock slate. We have the 5-3 Bears coming off a loss, facing the 5-2 Titans, who are also surprisingly coming off a loss. Tennessee is favored by 6.5 in this matchup. I'll start it off talking about the Tennessee Titans and what they can expect. What we saw last week, the big question was for the Titans, can their pass rush get to Joe Burrow and that improving our offensive line, which still is not good? And the answer was no, they still couldn't. It was the battle of the worst, and the Tennessee pass rush was worse than the bad offensive line of the Bengals. And guess what? You have another get-right game because you're playing against the Chicago Bears, who gave up 5 sacks last week to the New Orleans Saints, and they could have given up a lot more, a ton of pressures in that game. And, you need to get to Nick Foles because we saw – was the difference in that overtime game for the New Orleans Saints getting the victory over the Chicago Bears last week. And coming off a loss, maybe it was just, a super emotional game against the Steelers. You come back, you underestimate the Bengals, and you drop an egg. Mike Vrabel, he's a great head coach. I know he has to be ultra focused going into this game because he's looking in his rearview mirror. He sees the Colts stringing together some wins, but he knows they have a tough test playing Baltimore this week. So maybe he's going to try. He knows that this game means so much for them in terms of getting that AFC South crown. He needs this one. And this offense, the Chicago Bears defense is nothing to sneeze at, as we saw them hold the Saints offense 23 points. But they're not that great against the run. Derrick Henry should have a bigger game, and you need to get the middle of the field working. Jonnu Smith, I think, is going to have a breakout game in this one. They just don't have those cover safeties. Eddie Jackson has kind of fallen off this year. So I like the Titans in this matchup, but the big thing for me is you need to get that defensive line going. You cut Vic Beasley. Maybe that was he didn't want to be there. You were giving him way too many minutes. Maybe he can find another home. Maybe Seattle for Vic Beasley. Who knows? But, in this matchup, it's imperative you get that defense going because if you can't, it's going to be a short playoffs for these Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I believe this is going to be a very close game for the exact reasons that you said. Can the Titans get some pressure on Nick Foles? Because we saw, if he had a clean pocket against the Saints, we saw what he did. Probably his best performance of the season so far last week. And then for these Titans, if they get some third or 3-and-outs and they keep on kicking the ball to Nick Foles in some good field position, this game could get away from them pretty easily. Along with their defense we saw last week, give up a lot of points to Joe Burrow, and they could do it once again to Nick Foles with Allen Robinson, along with Anthony Miller and David Montgomery. But I think Mike Vrabel, the better head coach, I think he'll be able to pull this one through. The Titans have had back-to-back surprising losses, and like you're saying, this AFC South is not theirs just yet. The Colts are right behind them. So for all those reasons, I'll take the Titans in a close one, 24-23.
And, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I don't think it's going to be as close. I think this Chicago Bears defense and offense is way too turnover dependent. And in a game, if Ryan Tannehill can protect the ball, and I think he will in this game at home, then it's just way too hard for the Chicago Bears offense to get any sort of momentum. One funny thing, Mitch Trubisky got injured last week, a shoulder injury, after playing one snap in that game against the New Orleans Saints. So that was a bit troublesome. At least that puts a little of the Mitch Trubisky, will he play this week? Will he not? Rumors to rest. Thankfully for Nick Foles to have a clear mind going into this game. But it'll depend on turnovers. That's it. We know the Tennessee Titans can create offense whenever they want. They have one of the best offense in the league. But the Chicago Bears need to hold the ball because it's going to be a rough outing if Nick Foles throws an interception, which he has done the past 6 games. So troublesome stat there. So I'm going to go with the Titans. I'm going to go 30-23. Late touchdown really gets them going. And
Titans scored 30 points on the Bears defense. That's
Chicago cannot come back. Now we're going to move on to our next game of the 12 o'clock slate. I don't think I'm ever going to stop saying that. Another AFC South team, the Colts, at home against the Ravens. Both teams 5-2. Baltimore favored by 2 points in this matchup. Laraib, I'll let you get started with this one.
Yeah, let's talk about this Indianapolis Colts team just a little bit. I was not too high on Phillip Rivers coming into this team, and it looked like I was right a little bit early on in the season. But now, after back-to-back wins, it's looking like, maybe this team could do something offensively. But this week, they're just going to have their hands full against this Ravens team, which is a hell of a lot better than the Lions team they played last week. And Phillip Rivers, we know how turnover prone he is, and that's exactly what he's going to do against this Ravens defense. We saw what they did to Ben Roethlisberger last week, and he had 3 interceptions in that. What did he have? How many interceptions did he have in that game?
0. They had 2 fumbles.
Yeah. So, this Ravens team, even if they don't get any interceptions, they're still able to get some turnovers. And with Phillip Rivers back there, maybe the rivers in Indianapolis aren't dry, but there's a little stream that's just able to, squeak by. But he's not going to be able to squeak by this Ravens team. They do have Darius Leonard back on the defensive side of the ball. But even with that, I don't think he'll be able to help, that team as much. And then the Ravens, they lost Ronnie Stanley for the season, very bad injury that he sustained last week. So maybe they can get something going on the defensive side, get some pressure on Lamar Jackson. But I don't think their offense is going to be able to keep up with the Ravens.
Yeah, one thing I want to say, Darius Leonard, I think, is the best interior linebacker in all of football. That might be a bold statement. You can throw Bobby Wagner in there, Fred Warner, and some other middle linebackers. But when Darius Leonard plays for this defense, he is undoubtedly their defensive stopper. In games where they didn't have him against the Browns, and they were absolutely gashed. But the last 2 games when he's played, he has been absolutely incredible for them defensively. So all the credit to him. But it is not a one-man band. And neither is this Ravens backfield. J.K. Dobbins had the game of his career so far in his rookie season, over 100 yards rushing. And, you'd think they'd miss a lot of production with Mark Ingram out, but Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, and J.K. Dobbins, that rushing attack is still so lethal. And we saw them. They put over 100 rushing yards on this stout Steelers defense. And we know the Colts have a stout defense as well. But I don't know if it's the caliber of the Steelers defense, and their back end is nowhere near the caliber of the Steelers defense, which I think will be exploited. I think Lamar has a bounce back game. He hears all the noise. He's going to come back, have a great offensive showing. And I don't trust Phillip Rivers coming back in a game. The rivers are dry. Do not fall in this trap, Laraib. I know you're not going to pick him, but do not fall for this trap. He's going to have a horrible week this week. And then we're going to come on Tuesday and just completely rip him to shreds. That's how the storybook is written in Indianapolis. So, yeah, give me the Ravens in this one. I just think the rushing attack is way more potent than the Colts defense can stop. They might get an interception here or there, but I don't trust this Colts offense to really do anything much with it against the stout Ravens defense, which played a pretty good job played pretty well. If it wasn't for that pick 6, they only would have allowed 20 points to the Steelers team off of 3 other turnovers. So they're not going to be put in that position this week. Give me the Ravens this one. I'm going to go 27-17.
Yeah, one thing we talked about it a little bit earlier about Lamar Jackson coming up short in big games, but in these small, teeny tiny games that don't really mean much, he always wins them.
Game. This is a medium game.
Whatever, it's not a big game, and it's at 12 o'clock schedule. No lights are going to be on them, so Maybe he hits a couple throws in this game, unlike last week, and he wins this game. But I think it's going to be pretty tight just because of the Colts defense. We've seen what they've done. They've been pretty solid so far this season. So, but still, I'm going with the Ravens. Give me the Ravens 24-20, or no, 24-17. The rivers in Indianapolis are dry, I will say.
All right, now we're going to move on to our next matchup of the week. We have the 3-5 Panthers coming off a 10 days rest after a Thursday night football game. Lost against the Falcons last week, traveling to Kansas City, who absolutely demolished the New York Jets last week at 7-1. Looking like probably the most dangerous team in the NFL right now. Big thing in this game, the return of Christian McCaffrey. He got injured in week 2. Speculation on whether he was done for this season, what the outlook of this team would look like. They sort of tread water recently, even though they dropped 2 games of the last 2 games. But, this team is still well put together, and Christian McCaffrey's back. He is this offensive engine. We're going to see how good he can be against the Kansas City defense at Kansas City. But he's going to provide some extra burst for this team. I like what Mike Davis has done. I really hope Carolina can still find a way to get him involved on certain downs, because I think he is a good running back in this league. But there's a difference maker, Christian McCaffrey, who's probably the best running back in the NFL when he's healthy. So, but not going to matter too much because you're going to Kansas City. The line in this game is 10.5. I think it will be at least a 7-point game because I trust Teddy Bridgewater to keep the ball. But this Kansas City offense has way too much firepower, and they're coming off a relatively healthy week against the Jets, just absolutely flexed their muscles on them, did not even leave a chance of doubt. And that's what you're supposed to do to bad teams. And this Carolina team, they're not necessarily a bad team, but they're nowhere near the Chiefs level. Chiefs are just going to have their way with them early and often. Christian McCaffrey's going to make it interesting, but not interesting enough as the Chiefs get the dub.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs have won back-to-back games by over 26 points. And although that streak does not continue this week, I will say they will win this game pretty handedly. Even with Christian McCaffrey back, he's still going to be pretty limited. He's not going to be 100% in this game. And that Carolina defense, as great as it's looked with Brian Burns coming off the edge, and then they have the rookie cornerback in Jeremy something. I don't know.
Jeremy Chin?
Yeah, Jeremy Chin. He's been playing very well this season. Despite all that, they have the 5th lowest pressure rate in the NFL. And, they won't be able to get any pressure on Patrick Mahomes or force him to do any turnovers. So give me the Chiefs in this one. 30-17, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going 33-17. It's basically a similar score. Christian McCaffrey's going to make this game fun. It's going to make this game watchable. But, Teddy Bridgewater came off a pretty bad outing, and now you're going up against the Kansas City defense, which I think is much improved from what should be a defense that accompanies a high-powered offense. This looks like one of the most complete teams in the NFL, and they're certainly going to flex their muscles on Carolina this weekend.
Yep. So let's move on to another game in the 12 o'clock schedule. The Detroit Lions at 3-4 visiting the 2-5 Vikings. Vikings coming off a very surprising win last week against the Green Bay Packers. We saw what Dalvin Cook did, put up historic numbers as a Viking with over 220 scrimmage yards along with 4 touchdowns. And, hopefully he can continue that against the Lions this week. Quick thing to note, Matthew Stafford is on the COVID-19 list, but he does have a chance to play in this game since he was in contact with someone with coronavirus, but he does not have it, but he still has to quarantine for 5 days. So it's going to be interesting to see if he does play in this game, and that's why there is not a line out. But Kirk Cousins, he did not have the greatest game last week, and obviously he didn't have to. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen combined for less than 100 receiving yards last week. Meanwhile, you just give the ball to Dalvin Cook and you let him do all the work. So hopefully they can do that once again this week against the Lions team.
What image really sticks out in my head is in week 3 against the Packers, how terribly their defense played against Aaron Jones, just letting up over 200 scrimmage yards, 3 touchdowns. And then 2 weeks later, you play the Saints, Alvin Kamara, over 150 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. And now you're getting the best running back in the NFL, at least currently, how they're playing at the moment. Alvin Cook, who absolutely torched the Packers last week. He's going to be playing amazing in this game. Already projected 18 fantasy points in fantasy football. That is ridiculous. And he's going to be the difference maker in this game. They don't need Kirk Cousins to do too much. And as Vikings fans, you don't want Kirk Cousins doing anything, quite honestly. Give the ball to your best player, Dalvin Cook. And when you need to, you can hit receivers, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen on those 3rd and longs. This Vikings offense is looking pretty good. I mean, regardless of the quarterback, their offensive line is getting healthier. It's looking a lot better. And, they're making some pretty big lanes for Dalvin Cook. It's not only on him. I know we all remember that long touchdown pass he had, a reception he had, just making defenders miss. But the offensive line is still very athletic for this team, a young offensive line with a lot of promise. So I think that's going to be the difference in this game. Regardless if Stafford plays or not, I just don't see this defense being able to stop Dalvin Cook. Kenny Golladay injured for the Lions. And when he came back from injury earlier in the season, that's kind of when their offense had a turning point and they started pulling off some of these games. But I think this week is the difference. They're just not going to have the firepower to keep up with the Dalvin Cook train. Give me the Vikings in this one, 27-24.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, especially if Matthew Stafford doesn't play in this game. They're going to have what? I don't know who they're going to have at quarterback, but it's obviously no one who's going to distribute the ball as well as Matthew Stafford will to, Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay on the outside. So that being said, I still have to take the Vikings in this game just because of what they can do on the offense side of the ball. So give me the Vikings 27, Lions 17, just because of the Matt Stafford issue currently.
The Lions' backup quarterback is David Blau. He played a few games last year, including that Thanksgiving game that they played. Just throwing that out there, he is their backup quarterback. Hopefully for Lions fans, they don't have to see him. But like we both said, it may not matter. Now we're going up against going for another game. The 1-7 New York Football Giants on the road facing the 2-5 Washington Football Team. The football team is favored by 2.5 points in this game. And this is an interesting matchup because, at the beginning of the season, these teams were probably the worst, but they're actually playing pretty well recently. We just saw Giants coming off a close loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are probably the best team in the NFC. They lost and took a last play at the end of the game, coming off a short week. And the Washington Football Team, 2 wins in a row. That's nothing to sneeze at for them. Or not 2 wins in a row, coming off a big win and a bye week. So they had extra time to prepare for a team that they have already played so far. And they lost by 1 point thanks to a missed extra point by the kicker. But no, this is tough because I really like how the Giants have been playing recently. I talked about it in the last one. I see improvement week by week by week. And it's only a matter of time until some of these wins start to pile up. But I also really like what I've seen from this Washington Football Team, and especially their front seven, how they're just getting after the quarterback. And they don't need their offense to do too much, but Antonio Gibson had a massive game against the Cowboys. Granted, it was the Cowboys. And it seemed like Terry McLaurin has really emerged as a, all-pro caliber receiver in this league. He just needs a competent quarterback to feed him the ball. Saying all this, I like the Giants in this matchup. I think their defense has shown a lot to me the past few weeks. Dalvin Tomlinson has been a beast for them in the middle, just breaking up passes, getting to the quarterback, stopping the run. And Blake Martinez has really been a key addition in the middle of this Giants defense. So I'm liking the Giants in this matchup. I'm going to go low scoring. I'm going to go 23-18. 23-18. Give me the New York Football Giants getting their second dub of the season.
I completely have to disagree with you. Now, you're talking about that Washington defense or defensive front seven. Well, they ranked first in the NFC in their sack rate, and their pass defense actually is second in the NFL in DVOA. So I expect Daniel Jones to heavily struggle in this game, and along with all that pressure in his face, he's going to be committing those turnovers like we saw last week. He had 2 terrible interceptions that could easily have gone for 70, 60-yard touchdowns. And instead, he turns it over to the other side of the team. So, give me Washington in this one just because of how bad Daniel Jones is. I know their defense has stepped up pretty well, last week like you were talking about. But this week, the amount of turnovers Daniel Jones is going to have once again is going to cost him this game. So give me Washington in this one. It's going to be pretty tight, but Washington 23, New York 20.
You're not giving Daniel Jones enough credit. I know he has the turnover issue, but if Evan Ingram doesn't drop that ball against the Eagles, he's getting applauded for making that throw and winning them that game against a division rival. He definitely has talent, or he wouldn't be starting quarterback in the NFL, especially a first-round draft pick. And he showed on some touch on some plays, deep shots. He likes to take them, and he's willing to risk, Darius Slayton and Evan Ingram down the field. And those receivers, they're not bad. I like this offensive unit. You just need to get the ball out quick. They really ran the ball well with Wayne Gallman as well last week. Look for him to get more involved. And I'm really liking the Giants in this matchup. Person we're disagreeing on. This might be a pretty close week between those two. So hopefully it doesn't have to come down to Daniel Jones screwing me.
Oh, he will. He will.
The next matchup, we have the Houston Texans coming off a bye week facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Where to start in this game?
If you have $10 lying around and you live in Jacksonville, go and witness greatness with Deshaun Watson out there.
Hey, I'll do anything to watch a live football game. So I don't care if it's who's the Jacksonville starting quarterback right now for this game?
I couldn't tell you. It's some random dude.
I'm looking it up. Jake Luton will be your starting quarterback on Sunday. So no Minshew mania. He's had a pretty good season so far.
He's injured. He has a rib injury.
I know. I'm just saying he's had a pretty good season so far. Unfortunately for the injuries, we'll have Jake Luton starting in this game. And I just can't see Jake Luton beating the Houston Texans. It was a game last season. Gardner Minshew was thrown in there in the fourth quarter, and he lit it up. He had Minshew mania, and he almost beat the Texans. Maybe Jake Luton pulls off another, Luton ludicrous play. I don't know. I'll think of something later, maybe. But no, not much to talk about this game. I guess big news coming out of the Texans. J.J. Watt said that he wants to be moved from the Tech. He didn't say it, that discreetly, but he's implying like he's in a part of his career where trade deadlines pass. So I don't know why he said it.
Maybe he should have said that, maybe before, a little bit before the trade deadline. Not after.
Because as a football fan, I want to see J.J. Watt on a contending team. I want to see him vow for a championship because he's been so good this decade.
I guarantee you, if Bill O'Brien was the GM of this team, Deshaun Watson would be playing in New York. J.J. Watt would probably be on the Seahawks. Will Fuller would 100% be on the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, for sure. Now, I think you'd keep Deshaun, but everyone else, it'd be Deshaun and the deplorables, at least for this season. And he'd have picks, all 1 through 32 in the NFL draft. But despite that, I guess, big thing, I got the Texans in this game. I just don't know Jake Luton whatsoever. Yeah, I'm going to go Texans in this one. I'm going to 27-17.
Quick thing to note, Jaguars.
No. 13.
Quick thing to note, the Jaguars have the league's worst pass defense in DVOA. So look for Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and Randall Cobb to just feast in this game. Give me the Texans 31-17.
You heard it here first, Jaguars and Texans fans. Moving on, we have our first game of –
I want to go.
We want to go. We want to watch live football. Jacksonville, you better be out there. There's a chance of rain, though, so maybe that's the reason. Next game, there is an even line, so this is a pick'em game. We have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. I'll let you start off with this one, Laraib, but this is actually a really interesting matchup.
I have some breaking news breaking right now from Yahoo Sports. The Raiders were just fined $500,000, along with Jay Gruden being fined for $150,000, and they were taken away of some of their draft picks for repeat offenses against the COVID-19 protocols. So, I mean, we talked about this, in one of our earlier podcasts, but the NFL has finally thrown down the hammer on this one. If you're watching any one of these Raiders games, you see John Gruden on the sideline with no mask on, and he is yelling every single cuss word in the English language. And now they just give him a fine. Put that mask on and stop the spread of COVID. That's exactly what they did. So that's some big implications for this Raiders team, especially with some of their draft picks gone. I know the money really doesn't seem like a big deal, and it isn't a big deal. But the draft picks were important for this team, but now they're gone. But this week they face a 2-5 Chargers team who, like you said earlier, look like the Atlanta Falcons of the AFC. This Raiders offense, they struggled last week against the Browns defense, which we saw their secondary could be exposed, but I have to give them a little bit of a pass just because of how the weather was in that game. But in this one, look for Justin Herbert to have another statement victory. I mean, I know this Chargers team is used to giving up leads, but Justin Herbert, this is like one of the must-win games for you just because you don't want to have that constant, losing atmosphere in your locker room, right? You always feel like you have these giant leads against these teams, and then you just give them up. And Anthony Lynn, I don't know how much longer he's going to be the head coach of this team just because of how bad they were playing the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's really troubling to hear that news coming out of Las Vegas. But we called for it. If you mess up, and especially a repeat offense, you need to get punished severely because there is such on the line for this season. There's so many people risking so many things, and for a violation like that to happen is inexcusable. But here's where Gruden is an evil mastermind, and I hate him for it. He's going to turn this into motivation. He's going to try to make this into the league hates us, and they're trying to penalize us. You know what? Screw them. Screw that. We're winning this football game, and they are winning this football game. This offense, it's hard to score when there's 35-mile-per-hour winds swirling around a stadium, which was the situation in Cleveland last week. And I foolishly picked against them, but this offense is actually very dynamic, and I've liked what they've seen. Derek Carr as a passer, he's, precision accuracy. He's going to make the right throws, make the right reads. And I just don't think this Chargers team is disciplined enough to really, on those long drives, which Raiders lead the league average time of possession for drives, and just absolutely grinding you down. And is Justin Herbert going to have the patience on the sideline to watch them go on a 13-play drive and score a touchdown? Now you got to go back out there. And if you get a 3-and-out, then everyone's freaking out, and you're going to give the Raiders the ball back, and all you know, it's already the second quarter. So definitely look in this game. I think the Raiders are going to dominate ball control. Their offensive line is a studly unit. And the Chargers, they might try to come back late. This is going to be a very fun, interesting game. But give me the Raiders in this matchup. I'm going to go 27-23.
This is definitely going to be a close and fun game to watch, especially, interdivisional game. But last week I did pick the Raiders to win that game, and this week I'm picking them to lose. And, I talked about a little bit last week, but the Raiders, sometimes they're on and sometimes they're off. They gave up 45 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then they give up just 6 points to the Browns. So this week they will do horribly once again against Justin Herbert. Like I said, he needs to go out there and have a statement victory, get his second win of the season, third win for the Chargers. So give me the Chargers in this one. It's going to be a close one. It's going to be fun. But Justin Herbert, I trust him a lot more than I do Derek Carr on any given Sunday. So Chargers 24, Raiders 21.
Hey, I think you're saying that, you're starting your cane sauce is in doubt right now for this offensive rookie of the year. Joe Burrow, he's in the lead right now. Maybe he doesn't even look back. He keeps on going. But that's besides the point, as only one of them will be playing on this weekend. But now we move on to another team in the AFC North. Great segue right there, by the way. The Pittsburgh Steelers, undefeated on the season, looking like the best team in football, which we both think is the best team in football. But maybe the Chiefs, who knows? Going to Dallas to face the 2-6 Cowboys, probably the worst team in the NFC regardless of record. The starting quarterback for Dallas in this game will be Cooper Rush. Pittsburgh's favored by 2 touchdowns. Laraib, give me a case. How can the Cowboys win this game?
They're going to win this game on the coattails of Ezekiel Elliott. There's no way they can trust Cooper Rush or who else are they contemplating? Or Garrett Gilbert, either one of those two to start in this game. Maybe they throw Ben DiNucci out there once again. But if they're going to win this game, it's going to be because Ezekiel Elliott has 200 scrimmage yards and hopefully 2 or 3 touchdowns for the sake of my fantasy team. But there's no way in hell they're winning this game unless Cooper Rush is the second coming of Peyton Manning out there, and he probably won't be. So give me the Steelers in this one pretty easily. I mean, there's not much to talk about. We know what that offense is. We know what that defense is. Undefeated right now, best team in the NFL, hands down, no question, against a Cowboys team which has just looked defeated so far this season. So give me the Steelers 34 to 10.
All right. You know what? I agree with you, but I'm going to flip it over to the Steelers side on their offense real quick. They still are not playing at a level that I really want them to play at. And if they want to be a true contender to face a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, they can win those grind them out games against teams that are also really physical because of their physicality. But if you're going up against a high-flying passing attack, that might be a problem. But in this game, I think, one good thing for the Cowboys that I've seen from last week's game, the emergence of Trayvon Diggs at corner, 2 interceptions against Carson Wentz. He got burned early in that game, but he bounced back, got Carson Wentz back twice, and he's really looking like a promising rookie, aggressive corner. Reminds me of his brother, actually, or cousin, Stephon, but just as a defensive back. So he's going to be most of the game on Juju, so expect Chase Claypool to have a big game, fantasy owners out there. He might have a really good game against this defense, but also James Conner is going to have a massive game running the ball. They're just going to run it down their throats. Like you said, not much to talk about in this matchup. Maybe Cooper Rush is the next coming of Dak Prescott. I highly doubt it. But, that was a good score. I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to go 37-3 in this game.
3 points. A national football team is going to put up 3 points.
I mean, the Cowboys put up 9 against the Eagles, so.
I mean, Eagles are a solid team, They might even win that division.
Oh, yeah, they might win that division. Nah. All right, but now we're going to pivot to one of the most exciting games of the week. 2 young, budding quarterbacks in this matchup. We have the 4-3 Dolphins coming off a massive win against the Rams, traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 4.5 in this game. I'll start it off with the emergence of Tua Tagovailoa as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. He didn't have a flashy game. First drive did not go as planned, had a fumble on the first drive. But ever since then, he stood in there. He threw a nice touchdown to Jakeem Grant on a slant route in the end zone. He'll do just enough to get you a win. I want to see more from him. I think he's really good. But the story of this Miami Dolphins team in 2020 is that defense, the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, to a lot of people's surprise. They just get after you. They cause turnovers. Their special teams is one of the best units in the NFL. It seems like they're always getting a return touchdown, or they're really good in field position. But you're gonna have a tough task on your hands with the Arizona Cardinals this week. Excuse me. As Arizona Cardinals are the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. So this is going to be a really exciting matchup on that side of the ball. Not a lot of big names in the Dolphins, but Xavier Howard, he's a really good lockdown corner who's probably going to be matched up on DeAndre Hopkins most night. If not, Byron Jones will be playing up against him. So he's going to be seeing talented corners wherever he goes on the field. And so you need Chase Edmonds to step up this game and have a really good rushing attack for you because no Kenyon Drake in this game, but this Miami defense is very aggressive. They will get after you. Their linebackers underrated, good run stopping. And I think this is a game that the Dolphins could win, but I just don't think Tua in a game could outscore Kyler Murray, and that's one of the biggest concerns for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The Dolphins, we know how great their defense has been this year, but don't sleep on that Cardinals defense. We saw what they did 2 weeks ago to Russ Wilson, forcing him to throw 3 interceptions. Their defense, was a key part of them winning that game. So, I mean, if both these teams, if this is going to be a close, or if you're going to rely on any one of these quarterbacks to win this game, I definitely have to go with Kyler Murray just because of how much more experience he has, and how much more better he's looked this season. Small sample size we've gotten so far, from Tua, so that's, just questioning on who I want to pick in this game. But I will have to go with the Cardinals just because, Jared Goff last week was not a quarterback that I really like. And that's Dolphins team, they played a great game against him, but they're going to have a different, scenario this week with Kyler Murray, who we know can get outside the pocket. And then he has DeAndre Hopkins, top 3 wide receiver in the NFL to throw to. So that being said, give me the Cardinals in this one. It's going to be a little bit closer than expected. So 27-23 Cardinals.
Big thing in this game for the Cardinals offense is to limit turnovers because, like I said, number 1 scoring defense, this Miami Dolphins defense will turn those turnovers into points very quickly. So play conservative, get the ball in the hands of your playmakers out in the open, let them just ball out in Arizona. And I think this is this is a game you have to win. So in order to stay in that packed NFC wild card race. So give me the Cardinals in this one as well. I like the Miami defense, but I just have not seen enough from Tua yet to really pick him in a game over Kyler Murray, who has been absolutely electric this season. So like you said, I'm going to go a little bit lower scoring. I'm going to go 24-23. It's going to be an absolute show in the desert. But moving on to probably the most exciting matchup that everyone's been waiting for after week 1. We have the New Orleans Saints traveling to Tampa to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One quick note, Lewis and Laraib trivia right here for all of our fans. There's been one team all season that we have not picked against. It's not the Chiefs. It's not the Ravens. Not the Buccaneers. It's the New Orleans Saints. So let's see if that's going to change tonight as the 5-2 Saints travel to 6-2 Buccaneers. Tampa is actually favored in this game by 4.5 points. I'll start us off with this one. There's a lot to get to in this matchup. I think one of the biggest storylines are the wideouts in this game. Chris Godwin coming off a broken finger will be playing in this matchup. He might be a little hobbled, but the emergence of Antonio Brown on the Tampa Bay roster, he will be playing in his first game here on Sunday night. And, if he is to form, like we've talked about, he is going to add so many dimensions and layers to this already lethal Tampa Bay offense with Gronkowski emerging and Mike Evans still being a threat on the other side of the ball. They're going to open up so much for him to really operate in this game. And Ronald Jones, one of the unsung heroes of this Tampa Bay offense, is going to have a tough task against the Saints run-stopping defense. But, what's the Saints defense known for in 2020? They're going to play really well on 80% of the drives of the game. And then there's going to be those 20% where you're going to give up a 60-yard pass, and then on the next play, you're going to give up a 27-yard touchdown, and just like that, Tampa's on the board. So if the Saints, they need to limit the big plays, and adding Antonio Brown to that offense, it's going to be very hard to do so.
Oh, man. This is going to be a very tough game to pick. On the offensive side of the ball for the Saints, we know who Drew Brees is, and if he gets back Michael Thomas this game, it's going to be a completely different Saints offense that we've seen all year long. So, I believe this game, there will be some raining and the ball will be just a little bit wet. So expect a little bit more running attack from both of these teams. But we saw what the Buccaneers defense was last week. You play Daniel Jones, and, if you saw the replays on some of those plays, some of those wide receivers just streaking wide open down the field. And I'm telling you one thing, Drew Brees is going to hit those receivers if Daniel Jones is not. You can't, Drew Brees, he can feel that pressure unlike anyone else in the league, and he can let that ball fly. And, everyone likes to call him, or everyone's saying, his arm strength has gone down, but he still has a little bit left in the gas tank, and that's why he's playing this year. But that being said, I'm going to have to pick the New Orleans Saints. The streak continues in this one. Drew Brees, I have a lot of faith in him this season, especially after a lot of people are calling him out after early on this season. So that being said, give me the Saints in this one despite Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin. You seem shocked, Lewis. Are you all right?
You put me in such a bad spot here because I was betting on you picking Tampa, and I was going to pick the Saints. And that would have been the game to decide the week, and I would have had a win as well. But then you picked the Saints. One thing I want to note about this game that gave me some pause for that Monday night performance was this number one rushing attack letting up a bunch of really big runs to Wayne Gallman, which is just very uncharacteristic of them. Knowing that the Giants are trying to run the ball. Um, so that was one of the things that gave me some pause. And, Alvin Kamara, who's been playing like a beast this season, and Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and Marquez Callaway all coming back to give them opening lanes, getting defenders out of the box to double Michael Thomas, double Emmanuel, or whoever. Jared Cook had another good game against Chicago last week.
Don't do it, Lewis. Don't do it.
The streak is not going to be broken. I'm going with the Saints in this matchup. They're winning this game, sweeping Tampa. Tom Brady has never been swept by a divisional opponent in the regular season until the NFC flipping south, and that starts on this week. Give me a score of Saints 33 to Tampa 30. Let's go.
Well, I wouldn't say it's going to be that high scoring, especially with that Buccaneers defense as great as it's been all year long. So give me the Saints 27, Buccaneers 24.
Man, that's game.
And if the Saints win this one, they take the NFC, right? It'll be first place in the NFC.
Seattle only has one loss.
Excuse me. I mean, in the NFC South.
Yes, in the NFC South, they will have a complete tiebreaker over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and also that will give the Tampa Bay another loss and the Saints another win, and it's going to be on the uppity because the Saints' upcoming schedule is 49ers team at home with no Jimmy Garoppolo, no George Kittle. Now, we all saw that game last year in which George Kittle just bullied his way for a win. He won't be making us have any nightmares again. I know they're going to show the play 10 times before the game starts, and during the game. But, then they have the Falcons, the Broncos, the Falcons again, the Panthers again, all winnable games that theoretically, if they can get out of this game with a W, they could be the 2 seed in the NFC, but I'm not jumping in conclusions yet. Got to get through this game first. Definitely a hard one. Super tough to pick. I was really leaning Tampa a lot this week. But I have faith. Who dat?
All right,
What?
Oh, you can go ahead.
You go on.
I was just going to say, well, that is going to wrap up the Sunday slate of games, and we can move on to the Monday night game on ESPN. The 2-5 New England Patriots will face the 0-8 Jets in prime time on Monday night. Quick thing to note, a couple of questionables for both teams. Damian Harris, running back for the New England Patriots, along with Stephon Gilmore, are questionable. And for the Jets side, Josh Andrews and Quinnen Williams are also questionable. So some key players on both sides of the ball that are, maybe or may not play in this game. But, not much to be said about this one. The Patriots are struggling so far this season, along with Cam Newton. But this Jets team, we know who they are. New York Jets, a.k.a. the home of Trevor Lawrence, will be looking to tank this game. But if somehow they win this game and then they beat the Patriots later on in the season, maybe the Patriots become the new Trevor Lawrence favorites. But in this one, I just have to take the Patriots. Cam Newton, we saw what he said earlier this week in his press conference. He's disappointed in himself how he's played the past couple of weeks. And this definitely, is a game for him to get right back on track.
One of the craziest things about 2020 is you could put a scenario in your head that the winless Jets could really beat the New England Patriots in November, which is just – it could happen. They're only favored by 7. This is the first time all season the Jets aren't double-digit underdogs. And how bad the Patriots have been playing recently, you could see it. But we're not picking the Jets on this podcast. We're not going to be fools. I'm going with the Patriots. They're going to get their running game going back. There's just been no positives this year for the Jets. I haven't seen one. There's not that one flashy young player who's, putting his name on the map. I guess if you want to, look at one person, it's going to be the wide receiver. It's what's his name?
Braxton Berrios?
No. Not a young guy.
Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, Jamison Crowder. He's been a positive. He's been a really good wide receiver for them. But that's about it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I'm going to give the Patriots the win. Low scoring, but I think Cam Newton has a bounce-back game this week. Give me 17-10 New England Patriots. Nope, 17-13 New England Patriots.
Yeah, give me the Patriots in this one. I would say they score a little bit more. 24, Jets 10.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's going to conclude this episode and our Week 9 recap. Crazy to think we've already gone through 9 weeks of the NFL season. But this week's going to be outstanding. Obviously, the Saints-Bucks game and plenty of others are going to be the headlines. So real quick, as we always do, still no one has done it yet, but we're going to keep doing it until someone does. $10 could have been in someone's pocket last week. Just saying, y'all missed out. This week, I'm not giving y'all that opportunity again. Y'all squandered it. So $5, if you can send me a picture of Drew Brees holding the Super Bowl trophy, that's all I need. No, holding his kid up like that.
If you can send me a picture of Cooper Rush holding up a Lombardi trophy or a Photoshop one, I will give you $5 on anything or on Venmo if you send me that message on any one of our social medias. But quick thing, right before we go, we have to do our lock and upsets of the week.
Yeah.
Currently, I have come back from a huge deficit to tie it all up. And this week, I have the lock going first. So I will always have to take the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Dallas Cowboys. Steelers minus 14 in this game. Like I said, there's no way the Cowboys win unless my boy Cooper Rush is the second coming of Jesus Christ himself. So give me the Steelers as my lock.
My lock of the week will be the Kansas City Chiefs over the Carolina Panthers. I know Christian McCaffrey's going to be coming back, but this Chiefs team really looks like the best team in all of football. It's hard to pick against them at this point of the year. And now I have my upset of the week. I said it earlier, but give me the Denver Broncos upsetting the Atlanta Falcons on the road. This team is primed and ready to make a run. They're disciplined. They're focused, coming off another just gut-wrenching win, and I think they get it done in the ATL.
I have a lot of options to choose from here, but for my upset, I guess I'm going with the New Orleans Saints against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We talked about it a little bit. We both have the Saints winning this game, so why not go with them as my upset of the week? Drew Brees, hopefully he can get back Michael Thomas, and they can sweep the Bucks this year and, reclaim the NFC South crown.
All right. Great choices, great picks. Hopefully I can reclaim my lead in the win column. I hate being in a tie week, so we'll hopefully get this dub this week. But that's going to conclude this week's episode. Links to our Instagram and Twitter will be in the bio, giving you updates on every single time we post. Besides that, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Wednesday morning. Peace.
All right. See y'all.